Welcome to Lesson 5.6 of the Grant Architect course. In this lesson, we explore process objectives, which measure implementation fidelity rather than participant outcomes. Process objectives answer the question, did we do what we said we would do? While outcome objectives focus on changes in participants, process objectives focus on changes in what you deliver. Both types are essential for comprehensive program evaluation. By the end of this lesson, you will understand the distinction between process and outcome objectives, how to write effective process objectives, and why implementation fidelity matters for program success. Understanding process objectives will strengthen your proposals and make your programs more accountable. Process objectives measure program implementation and delivery. They focus on what the program does rather than what changes result in participants. The question process objectives answer is whether we did what we said we would do. Did we conduct the planned activities? Did we deliver services to the intended participants? Did we follow the designed approach? These questions matter because funders want accountability for their investment. The relationship to outcomes is enabling. Good implementation makes outcomes possible. If you do not implement well, you cannot expect outcomes. Process objectives track whether you are creating conditions for success. They also provide early warning if implementation is going off track. Distinguishing process from outcome objectives is essential for clear program evaluation. A process objective might be number of training sessions conducted. This measures what you did. You count sessions. Success means delivering planned sessions. A corresponding outcome objective might be percentage of participants demonstrating skill gain. This measures what changed. You assess skills. Success means participants improved. Another process example is clients served according to protocol. This measures service delivery fidelity. Another outcome is client improvement in target measures. This measures client change over time. Process tracks implementation quality. Outcome tracks participant results. Both are necessary for understanding program effectiveness. Process objectives matter for several reasons. Accountability demonstrates you delivered what was promised. Funders want to know their investment produced activity. Process objectives provide this evidence. Troubleshooting identifies implementation problems early. If process objectives are not being met, something is wrong with implementation. Early detection enables course correction. Interpretation helps understand why outcomes were or were not achieved. If outcomes are poor but process was good, the program design may be flawed. If process was poor, outcomes cannot fairly be assessed. Fidelity ensures program was delivered as designed. Evidence-based programs work when delivered with fidelity. Process objectives track whether you maintained fidelity. Process objectives fall into several categories. Reach measures how many and who participated. Did you recruit the intended number? Did you reach the target population? Reach is fundamental to implementation. Dosage measures how much service participants received, number of sessions attended, hours of service, or contacts completed. Sufficient dosage is often required for outcomes. Fidelity measures whether the program was delivered as designed. Did facilitators follow the curriculum? Were all components implemented? Fidelity to evidence-based models matters. Quality measures how well services were delivered, not just that sessions occurred, but that they occurred well. Quality implementation differs from mere completion. Writing process objectives requires precision. Action focus specifies what will be done. Conduct, deliver, provide, implement. These verbs indicate action, not change. You are measuring what you do. Quantified means including specific numbers or percentages. 12 workshops, 200 participants, 90% protocol adherence. Numbers create accountability. Time frame specifies when implementation will occur. By month 6, quarterly, throughout year 1. Implementation has timing that should be tracked. Verifiable means the objective can be documented and confirmed. Sign-in sheets, service logs, observation checklists. You need evidence that process objectives were met. Examples illustrate well-constructed process objectives. A reach example is to enroll 200 eligible participants by month 6. This specifies who, how many, and when. Enrollment can be verified through records. A dosage example is that participants will complete at least 10 of 12 sessions. This sets a threshold for adequate participation. Attendance records document this. A fidelity example is that 90% of sessions will adhere to curriculum checklist. This sets a standard for implementation fidelity. Observation or self-report can document this. A quality example is that participant satisfaction ratings will average 4.0 or higher. This measures perceived quality. Survey data documents this. Connecting process to outcomes strengthens your proposal. Implementation theory suggests good process enables good outcomes. If you implement well, you create conditions for outcomes. Poor implementation undermines outcome potential. Threshold effects recognize that minimum implementation may be needed for outcomes. Participants may need a certain number of sessions before benefits appear. Process objectives can establish thresholds. Process evaluation helps understand the black box, what happened between inputs and outcomes. Process data illuminates how the program worked or did not work. Contingent interpretation acknowledges outcomes depend on implementation. If outcomes are poor, was it because the program does not work or because it was not implemented properly? Process data enables this distinction. Measuring process objectives uses several data sources. Administrative data includes service records, attendance logs, and enrollment counts. These routine records document implementation. They are often readily available. Observation involves directly watching implementation occur. Did facilitators follow the curriculum? Was the intervention delivered correctly? Direct observation is the gold standard for fidelity. Self-report has implementers report what was done, staff logs, session reports, and activity summaries. Self-report is practical, but may be biased. Documentation review checks records against standards. Did case files include required elements? Were protocols followed? Documentation provides evidence of process. Process objectives have a place in logic models. Position is typically between activities and outputs. They represent the evidence that activities occurred and produced immediate products. Function is to bridge implementation to results. Process objectives connect what you plan to do with evidence that you did it. They document the implementation pathway. Indicators specify how you know activities occurred as planned. What evidence demonstrates implementation? Process objectives identify this evidence. Balance is important because not all objectives should be process-focused. Funders ultimately care about outcomes. Process objectives support outcome assessment, but should not replace it. Common mistakes undermine process objectives. Too vague means lacking specific targets. Provide services to participants is vague. How many participants? What services? Specificity matters. Confused with outcomes means mixing what you do with what changes. Improve participant knowledge is an outcome, not a process objective. What you do is deliver training. What changes is knowledge. Unmeasurable objectives have no clear way to document achievement. If you cannot identify the data source that would verify the objective, it is not measurable. Overemphasis means too many process objectives and too few outcomes. Funders want to see change, not just activity. Balance process and outcome objectives appropriately. Process objectives enable continuous improvement. Real-time monitoring tracks process throughout implementation. Unlike outcomes that may take months to appear, process can be monitored continuously. Weekly or monthly process checks keep implementation on track. Mid-course corrections become possible when process is off track. If enrollment is slow, intensify recruitment. If dosage is low, address attendance barriers. Process data enables responsive management. Quality improvement uses process data to enhance delivery. What aspects of implementation need improvement? Process data identifies opportunities. Learning comes from understanding what works in implementation. Which components are most challenging? Where does fidelity break down? Process evaluation generates implementation knowledge. Process objectives appear in several proposal sections. The evaluation section includes process alongside outcome objectives. Your evaluation plan should specify how you will measure both implementation and results. The methods section describes how you will implement. Process objectives operationalize your methods. They make your approach concrete and measurable. The management plan shows how process will be monitored. Who tracks implementation? How often? What triggers adjustment? Management includes process oversight. Realistic targets should be based on capacity and evidence. What have similar programs achieved in implementation? What can your organization reasonably deliver? Targets should be ambitious but achievable. Here is a practical exercise to apply what you have learned. Step 1. Identify key activities in your program. What are the main things you will do? List the core implementation components. Step 2. Determine what evidence would show activities occurred. For each activity, what would demonstrate it happened? Attendance records, session logs, enrollment data. Step 3. Set specific, measurable targets for implementation. How many sessions? How many participants? What fidelity level? Quantify your process expectations. Step 4. Identify data sources for tracking each process objective. Where will the data come from? Who will collect it? How often? Specify your measurement approach. Let us summarize the key points from this lesson. Process objectives measure implementation rather than outcomes. They track what you do, not what changes as a result. The key question process objectives answer is whether you did what you said you would do. This accountability matters to funders and enables troubleshooting. Categories of process objectives include reach, dosage, fidelity, and quality. Each dimension of implementation can be measured and tracked. In our next lesson, we will explore outcome objectives, focusing on measuring program impact. Outcome objectives track the changes that result from your program activities.